All right, looks like we are live. How's it going, everyone? Make sure you let me know you can see me and hear me okay in the comments, and we'll get this thing started shortly. uh, all right, sounds good. So I'm gonna just quickly check a few things in mind. But yeah, folks, make sure you introduce yourself in the comments. I'm gonna be bringing on my special guest shortly in a couple of minutes. And we're talking about hackathons today. Very, very interesting, very exciting topic. I know any developer that I've ever spoke to, at least those that have attended hackathons, always speaking praises about the value of hackathons. So that's going to be the focus of today's conversation. So look, whether you've been in a hackathon or not, don't worry about that. We're going to be talking about what hackathons are, what value you can get as a developer at these hackathons, and how they can contribute to your career, right? And so that's going to be the focus on today's conversation. So again, let me know in the comments if you've been to a hackathon. So we got Deepak here in the house. Hey Deepak, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate that. You can see me and hear me good. Awesome, fantastic. So for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, welcome. My name is Dean Colovera. So I'm a former recruiter turned IT job search coach. So I've been working in IT recruitment previously for about 8+ years, and recently started out in job search coaching. So I help IT professionals in their job search. For those of you who are currently job seekers, feel free to subscribe to my newsletter. I'm just going to quickly put that on my screen here. And I release a new strategy, job search strategy, every Monday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time zone. So you can subscribe to my newsletter and actually, if you subscribe now, I will provide you with 4 key metrics that you need to be keeping track of in your job search. So make sure you sign up. It's on my website, www.dkglobaltalent.com/newsletter. I know previously a couple of you had some trouble remembering how to spell my last name, so I came up with a new website address. So hopefully that helps all of you out there. But make sure you sign up for that. And so in regards to today's guest, so my guest today is Navi Mann. So Navi is actually someone very passionate about hackathons, and she's building the future of software development careers at Mintbean. And we're going to have her speak more about Mintbean in the conversation. Now, Navi has personally hosted more than 80 hackathons, which is crazy, with thousands of developers from all over North America, right? And Navi's mission is to modernize the way that we assess, hire, train, and retain our dev talent. So without further ado, let me bring Navi on live so that she can join us. And folks, make sure you give a warm welcome to Navi in the comments. So Navi, thank you so much for your time and welcome to my live stream.
I really appreciate it, Dean. Thank you for the warm introduction. So happy to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, totally excited to have you on here and to speak about hackathons, right? Because this is a topic that, and previously when I was in recruitment and I've been, speaking with developers, they always, at least those who have mentioned hackathons, always mention how great they are, what a great experience they were, and how much they learned and how much it added to their skill set. So definitely wanted to cover in more detail today, more information about those hackathons. So that being said, Navi, I know I gave a brief introduction about yourself, but anything you want to add about yourself that I might have missed?
Oh man, I feel like describing myself in terms of like my professional journey is such a long-winded thing. I can never get it down to that 60-second elevator.
Right. Okay.
I'll give it a shot. So I kind of got into tech about 4 years ago, and I pivoted into tech. I graduated with a major in finance and a minor in marketing. And that was, I graduated right at the cusp of the financial meltdown. And the only thing that I wanted was to, get a job at a hedge fund. And I believe I shared this story with you. So,
yeah,
none of the hedge funds that I wanted were hiring. And so I kind of went into corporate finance, and I was there for about 5-6 years. Wasn't really happy about what I was doing. Meanwhile, I was married to a software developer, and then I would come home and I would see like how passionate he was about what he was doing. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I want that. I want what you have for your work. Like, I want that passion. I didn't have that for finance. And I just so I kept just throwing, I thought like maybe I just wasn't in the right role. And I tried all sorts of different things. And then finally I was like, you know what? I need to take some time off. Took a year off. put myself through a boot camp, and let me tell you how much I value the boot camp ecosystem. I know that there's a lot of criticism that goes around with boot camps and like, should you do a comp sci degree or should you kind of accelerate it and go through like, those, and boot camps kind of come in all shapes and sizes in terms of like 3 years, 6, 9. But really, like the thing that boot camps give you is the ability to understand how to build software applications when you don't know how to write a single line of code. So that's kind of like what the bootcamp gave me. But then it's like, there's also a lot of gaps in your learning. And it's like, how do you fill those gaps when you don't have the fundamental principles that a comp sci degree gives you? So that's kind of like where I found myself when I left the boot camp. And, so I was kind of like just trying to break into tech. I was doing a little bit of freelancing. And then at the same time, Monarch, who's my husband and also my business partner, was starting up his dev firm. And he was like, I need a freelancer. Can you do this React project? I started learning React, and then the firm started doing well, and I ended up moving into a technical project management role. And then, from there, I did like a little bit of QA automation, and then I moved a little bit more into the business side. So for 3 years, we were kind of just focused on the firm and growing the agency. And I'll kind of go into how Mintbean started, but the seeds were kind of laid because we're hiring so many developers to fulfill these projects. We were seeing lots of gaps in terms of what that, when you saw a developer's resume, from what that resume looked like and what that person's experience and what their capabilities were just two very different things. And like I said, I'll get into that a little bit later on, but that's the snapshot about me.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think your how you got into this is so unique, because you come from a non-tech background, like initially, right? I mean, you were in finance and stuff like that. So that's pretty interesting. So Navi, if I may ask, like, why are you so interested in helping developers?
So as I was just kind of walking you through my journey, it's especially for me, I can tell you that when you're going in from a non-tech background and then trying to break into tech, it's not easy. It's, you have, sorry, there seems to be some sort of echo, but I think that's fixed itself. There seems to be this almost like this barrier that you have to cross to prove yourself that, even though this is your second career, that you're looking for approvals. You're constantly looking for approvals. Like, no, I belong here. Look what I can build. And you're constantly trying. So, as a female, and then as someone who doesn't have a comp sci degree, so you're constantly trying to prove the fact that you can code, and that you should be taken. Someone should take an investment on you and give you that first opportunity, and it's all about that first opportunity. Who's gonna take a risk on you and say that, what, I'm gonna hire you as a junior dev? So that's why this is so important to me, because I've been through it. I've been through the pain of like trying to break into tech, and I know how difficult it is. And honestly, Dean, it's just gotten more difficult with what's happening around the world, and especially this year. I was actually listening to a conversation that you had with another guest. I believe her name was Gurpreet Mann. There's no relationship with her. I know that we share a last name, but
right.
But the thing is that I think she quoted that it used to take 6 months to find an opportunity. It's taking a year now. So it's like, the longer it takes for you to find an opportunity, the longer the tech industry loses that talent. People have, financial implications that unemployment kind of unfortunately gives, right? Like, if you don't have a job to pay for rent, if you don't have a job to pay for food, guess what? You're going to go do something else. So this is kind of what we're trying to solve. Like, how do we get people in front of employers faster? How do we increase visibility to, to more developers on a platform where they're able to make these connections faster, and that friction is a lot less?
Yeah, totally, and yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying, Navi. Right? I mean, it's so competitive right now, especially now given the situation with and the impact that with all these layoffs, and obviously there's still going to be new graduates and people graduating, still, which adds to the size of the talent pool in the market as well. So definitely agree with you on that. Hey, folks, make sure you like, comment, and share, and also make sure you put all any of your questions you have for Navi in regards to hackathons and how you can develop yourself as a developer. She's here to answer everyone's questions as well. So feel free to share that in the comments. Now, Navi, if we can kind of talk about hackathons now, like, so what are hackathons for? Like, what is their purpose?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So hackathons come in all shapes and sizes. Traditional hackathons is really can be like, where they used to be like where you put a bunch of developers in a room and they come up with some sort of creative solution to a problem that maybe they're experiencing in their own life, or they've taken on a sponsor from a company and they're trying to solve that problem, and they would do a stretch of like no sleep for like 72 hours and hack away at a problem. So
Right.
the industry has kind of like understood that that's not actually a healthy way to run these hackathons, because you're kind of telling these people that, hey, like for 72 hours we're telling you not to sleep, providing you with pizza and beer. It's like you kind of want to make sure that, and also it kind of promotes really bad code, right? Like
Right.
if you're creating an application in 72 hours, you're not sleeping, guess
Yeah.
what? That code is going to suffer. The quality of it is not going to be super high.
Yeah.
So, so hackathons traditionally were kind of meant for you to provide a space where you create solutions to problems, whether they're problems you're experiencing yourself or problems that you've encountered that other people are facing. And but they've kind of evolved over the last 10 years, and I'll tell you kind of like how our take on hackathons. So our take on hackathons is a little bit different, where we do hackathons on a week-long sprint, and
Oh,
so you kind of do get that rest and R&R, and you still get a family life, and you still get to, like, hang out with your girlfriend, boyfriend, or like
yeah.
like sleep and all that jazz. But really, what our hackathons are about is to prove that it's to take a set of requirements and turn it into a running application. The amount of, if I tell you the statistics in terms of how many people start and how many people end up with a product, it's astounding. Like I would probably say it's less than 50% of.
No way. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So right off the bat there, you're able to see like who has the grit to actually take, a product into fruition in about a week span. So
Yeah.
I give you a set of requirements and I say, go. And if you're able to build something in that week, I can kind of see like, as a recruiter, as someone who's hiring, I can take a look at on that submission and see that, okay, this is what, Dean's built in like 7 days.
Yeah.
And whether, so we provide a list of like requirements in terms of like basic MVP to to and then add on features to that to make the application a little bit more just meaty.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, it sounds pretty intense, right? I mean, especially from what you said hackathons used to be like. You got to build a code within like 72 hours. I mean, sounds like like a Spartan, one of those Spartan races or something, right? I mean, that's pretty intense.
You know what the thing is though, like it's oh man, like you're gonna get me in trouble. I'll try to stay politically correct about this whole situation, but no, it's the thing with hackathons is it does is it allows hiring managers and recruiters to see how what your skills are, right? Like you're given a set of requirements, and then like you kind of like leave that person alone, and then they hack away at that problem. And if that person is able to deliver something that is, pretty impressive, you can kind of like start seeing the thread of like, what does this person think? How does this person problem solve? How does this person approach a given set of complex problems when they're given a time frame? It's like
Right.
a sprint. Like think of it as a sprint. So it's a short
Okay.
sprint, and it's like how much can you fit into that? So the way that we've designed our hackathons is they're you either can take them on as an individual or you can take them on as a team. So we do give you that option where if I kind of decide that, hey, I'm gonna try to take on this challenge by myself, or if I'm new to the hackathon world and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this, let me maybe tag a few other people, whether it's in the community or you want to bring in a couple of friends and try it that way as well.
Okay, gotcha. So in terms of the agenda, like, is that kind of pretty much the standard agenda, Navi? Like, or is it like different depending on the hackathon and what needs to be done and stuff like that? Like, what's the typical agenda?
Yeah, so we try to keep it fairly simple in terms of the agenda and like the model as well. A lot of the hackathons that that exist in most other communities, you're also coming up with the design of the application, where
Mhm.
you're coming up with the idea. So we actually give you the idea. So you're not really coming up with, hey, I want to maybe I want to create a clone of Reddit, or I want to create some sort of radar app that does a very specific thing, and finds my friend or finds my dog. So it's kind of like we give you that right out of the box. So you're not really thinking of like, what should I build? This is really for developers who don't have a ton of experience and they feel stuck. They feel stuck in, I don't know what I should build next. And there's a ton of videos out there that tell you that you're gonna learn React in 30 minutes. You're gonna learn JavaScript in days. But there's not enough platforms out there that focus on build, that focus on, okay, this is what I've learned and I now need to apply it somewhere. So that's what we provide. So coming back to the agenda, we provide a very specific set of requirements. We give you the design of the application, the requirements, what the MVP looks like, and then we provide you examples, and then we kick off usually on Friday. We have an orientation, and then one of our code mentors actually does a walkthrough of the project as well. And then we have our Discord community that's super supportive. We have code mentors in the help channel that, if you're stuck and you really need someone to kind of like help you debug a particular solution, we kind of have a way of like going through that, like, hey, what did you try? Like, so that it's not hand holdy. So I kind of like go like, okay, what did you do? Like, what did you do to solve this problem? And so we have code mentors to help you out. And then throughout the week, we bring in different guests and workshops that are relevant to junior developers. And, I'll get to that word. I really don't like that word, but, that are kind of relevant to job seekers. And I think I think someone said that they don't like that word either. So
Right.
but really like people who are in search for new opportunities. We bring in recruiters like yourself that are looking at it in terms of like, hey, what is a hiring manager looking at? What are some, like, you can't just send an application out anymore. Like, you're just one of 500. You're one of 1,000 resumes. You need to differentiate yourself. And when you take a project, a hackathon project, and turn it into a submission, you can start talking about that. You can create a blog about it. Like, what were the problems I encountered when I was trying to create this build? How did I overcome those problems?
Mhm.
So it allows you to start creating that brand around yourself so that people, start noticing you. So this is what we're trying to create, a community of developers who are advocating for themselves without having, and employers are coming to them,
Yeah.
and they're going with like, not just projects, but we talk about like, write about your code, write about your hackathon project, and not just your hackathon project, your personal projects. Write about like, what accomplishments did you kind of like strive through? Like, what was that problem you got stuck on, and how did you overcome it? because that's what recruiters and hiring managers want to know. That's
Yeah,
what the tech
exactly.
interview is all about, right? The tech
Yeah,
interview isn't just about like, I need to solve this problem. It's about, I need to know how this person thinks. So
yeah,
you can show someone how that person thinks, how you think before they even get to like know you. Guess what? You've already kind of won them over.
yeah,
So
yeah. That's right. Yeah, I mean, I love that. Yeah, totally, I totally agree with you on that. I mean, I guess you kind of already answered this question, Navi, but are hackathons primarily for like people that are starting out their career? How about people at the mid or senior level? Like, does it make sense for them to also participate, or what does that look like for in terms of career levels?
So I think that hackathons are traditionally like, if you look at some of the bigger hackathons that happen around the world, there, you kind of, because there's a lot of like a large prize usually associated with them, they do attract more tenure developers because they're
Okay.
going after like, those, that $500 or
Yeah,
$1,000 gift. But in at Mintbean, we're really trying to support developers that are very early on in their career.
yeah. Okay.
But that's not to say that developers who don't have a ton of experience shouldn't take on some of these challenges, because when you've been working on like when you've been working at a given company for like X number of years, especially if the company has put you kind of in a silo, like whether you're in reporting, whether you're only focusing on API, whether you're only doing front end, whether you're only doing back end, those thought patterns get stuck. So you're kind of like stuck in that day-to-day mind. So sometimes like doing something like this definitely helps you restructure and just kind of like, oh wow, like, I didn't know that I could also do this. Like we've seen developers that have come in with, 3 to 5 years of experience and like and run into so many issues and not win a project. We've seen developers compete where somebody a lot younger in terms of experience has won over someone who had more experience. So
Right.
experience doesn't necessarily tell you if this person's going to win or not.
Interesting, interesting. Okay, that's awesome. And
Yeah.
and also another thing that I wanted to also kind of have you speak on, Navi, is how about the networking opportunities? I mean, I would assume that these are great networking opportunities as well for people to kind of grow and expand their networks. Can you speak a bit about that?
Absolutely. I think that especially now, I think the way that you kind of want to interact with your professional network is through reaching out to more people, right?
Yeah,
This is something that your talk covered yesterday, that I believe Gurpreet was talking about the hidden job market,
yeah,
that there's so many jobs that don't even get posted, right?
that's right.
So because you're increasing your network, because you're interacting with the community, there's so many opportunities that come your way that you wouldn't have even heard of if you had not been part of the community, right? There's opportunities that we bring to the community, and we have an apprenticeship program that we've just launched, and it's currently in beta in Ontario, and we're hoping that we can launch it both in Canada and US. But we're kind of testing it in this province and seeing how that goes. But I'll get into that in a bit as well. But yeah, there's tons of networking opportunities, and also I think that when you don't have a ton of experience, the first thing that you kind of need to do as a developer is freelance.
Hmm.
So freelancing is the best way of breaking into this industry. Um,
Right.
just like whether it's friends or there's someone in your network that like wants a website done,
Yeah.
whether it's like a retail website, or they're just, that's what you need to start doing. And you can, especially if it's someone in your network, you can have fun with it. You don't need to do it on like WordPress or and not to knock WordPress, but like you can test out Shopify, you can test out some of these other platforms, and you can start playing with some of these technologies, so that when you do go to on your resume, you start building those portfolio pieces that don't just exist without any user base,
Yeah.
right? So now you have applications that you've built that have gone in production that people are using. Like, that kind of already makes a difference in terms of how a hiring manager looks at you when it's just like, oh, I just kind of have a bunch of portfolio pieces.
Yeah, totally. Now, I know you kind of spoken about Mintbean already, but can you tell us more about Mintbean? And also, I'm curious, how did you come up with the name Mintbean?
Oh man. So that's a story on its own. We were so Mint Bean actually kind of came about. So I kind of got into it in the beginning of our talk.
Okay.
So we had been working on our agency quite successfully. Like we've worked in banking, we've worked in fintech, health tech, prominent startups in the city, logistics and transportation. And, as we were going through these projects, like we were hiring lots of different developers and we were noticing, and this was like during the peak of, when it was so difficult to hire intermediate to senior developers, because like soon as you got the resume, they already had like 5 offers on the table.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right. So you're like, oh man, like really like that person. And like now they have another offer. And as a startup, like you can't compete with these bigger companies. Like you're not Amazon. You can't pay them 200K, right? So and you don't have the benefit packages they have either. So you're like, okay, well, now I need to compete in this very competitive market. How do I get developers in the door that know what they're doing, but yet are not the most visible that other companies are taking up? So we started noticing this shadow talent pool that were great developers, phenomenal individuals, but didn't know how to market themselves. And we kind of so we through trial and error, we kind of like just fell on this giant pool of individuals that were just phenomenal developers. But when you looked at their LinkedIn profile or any of their online presence, as a recruiter, as someone who, even an internal hiring manager, you wouldn't give them a second glance because they haven't advocated for themselves. They're not the loudest developer, but does that mean that they're not skilled? Absolutely not. Right. So that's where we coined the term shadow talent. And, we started talking to those individuals because as a startup, like it made sense for us, right? It made sense for us to reach out to talent that wasn't being pinged like a billion times to come on to some of these companies. And, we started noticing that these individuals just were having trouble advocating for themselves because they didn't understand the game of job strategy or marketing. They were losing on a potential gain in terms of how much money they could make. And we also noticed a bunch of other problems. The technical assessment piece still hasn't been solved. Wasn't as the entire industry, actually, if you kind of take a look at how software developers are tested, there's so many tools out there that do that, but none of them do it in a way where it's meaningful. It's like, okay, I'm going to test you for an algorithm, but you're never going to touch algorithms when you come into the company because you're not really doing architect design. I'm be putting you on some like back-end project, or I'm going to be putting you on reporting. And so what's the point? Right? What's the point of me doing algorithm test when that's not what you're going to do day to day? So we saw a lot of like different components of the hiring cycle and how there were so many things that were broken. And so back in October 2019, we decided to launch Mintbean. And, at that time, because we were heavily in the finance sector, so Mint kind of made sense. And then Bean was like Java, coffee. So
Okay.
And Mint was also like new, like, so that's kind of like how that name came to be. And that was the original concept of our product. It was really meant to be a technical assessment piece, hackathon style. The pandemic happened, and we started kind of reflecting in our own journey. Like I was mentioning, I come from a background of corporate finance, and then I pivoted into tech, and Monarch is self-taught. I think I told you he read a cover of Java reference, like from front to back. And
Yeah.
he started with freelancing, and then started working his way up. And so we noticed lots of different gaps that existed in how developers were being hired. And we started talking about, like, back in like late February, early March, like, what do we want to do? Like, what problems do we want to solve with this community? It means a lot to us. The software industry has given us so much, both personally and professionally. I've seen a lot of growth in myself in terms of how much this industry has given to me. So it's like, we want to give back to this industry of solving this problem of, the tech industry has seen a negative unemployment rate for so long.
Yeah.
But then hiring is still a problem, right? When you
That's
take a look at all of the sectors, even during this pandemic, software is still hiring, right? And at the rates that it is. So there's a lot of companies that have boomed in the last 10 months,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're hiring like crazy. But then, people are still having trouble finding those opportunities. So it's like, what's missing? And then you have issues like diversity. When people talk about diversity in tech, but then they're not looking in the right places.
Yeah.
They're only looking for the loudest players. What about that shadow talent? What about the developers that aren't very vocal about what they're doing and what they're building? How do we get them in front of employers? How do we create visibility for them? So I know this was a very long answer, but as you can see, like, this stuff really means a lot to me, and that's kind of why we started Mintbean, and that's why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic, right? And I totally agree with you, because I mean, there's so much untapped talent out there. And being a recruiter, working in IT recruitment specifically, like I see it all the time, right? Great people who have such a great skill set, and not just developers, but I mean just even in general, right? But they're unable to really communicate their value, and they're not really, again, like just like you said, I like how you use the term, not the loudest, right? They're not loud, they're not public about who they are, their achievements, and what they can do, and all that stuff. So I think it's great that what you folks are doing with Mintbean, right? I mean, that's such a untapped part of the job market. Sorry, the candidate side of things, right? Now, Navi, how can companies help Mintbean's cause?
Good question. Support us. So we're always looking for sponsors. We're dedicated to remain a free community for developers. We don't charge. We're not recruiters. We don't charge hiring managers or recruiters to come in and hire developers from our community. One of our missions is to close that gap from graduation to employment. If that's our mission, then we can't stop hiring managers, and put a paid wall in front of them to communicate with these developers who are having trouble advocating for themselves. So how do we make money is, we need companies to come sponsor these individuals. And I was talking about diversity. Our community is so incredibly diverse. A lot of them come from non-traditional backgrounds, where they're boot camp grads or self-taught. There's 40% to 35 to 40% of our community is minorities. And, we're also seeing a big uptick in number of women in our community. So it's really nice to know that we're supporting so many different minority groups, and like, we're making a difference and getting people connect faster. So that's how companies can help. They can come and sponsor our community.
Yeah, I mean, totally, and it makes perfect. And I think it's such a great market segment that you're focusing on, because even like working in staffing agencies. I mean, staffing agencies for the most part focus on the mid to senior level, level of talent. So I feel like, and again, agencies don't work very often on those individuals just starting out their career. So I think it's great, because I feel like people starting out their career, new graduates, a lot of times they undergo a lot of frustration because they can't really get much help from the agencies, because agencies are focused on mid to senior level.
Yeah.
So I mean, again, I think this is a great thing that you folks are doing. So I know previously, Navi, you mentioned the Mintbean apprenticeship program. Can you let the viewers know more about that and like what that is?
Absolutely. So before I jump into that, you brought up an interesting point in terms of agencies are more focused on intermediate to senior,
Yeah.
and I don't have any. There's a reason for that, is because it's a lot easier for agencies
Yeah,
to sell intermediate to senior talent,
that's right.
and so what tends to happen is individuals who don't have a ton of experience, they're a risky investment for companies.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, because they're not, I'm sure you've heard of this term, known talent.
Yeah.
And in the recruitment world, it's a very common word, where someone has been in a given company, or they've, maybe moved around a couple of companies, but that this person is a qualified engineer, and they're, whatever field of expertise, whether full stack, back end, front end, or any given language, you kind of know that like this person is if they say that that's what they do, then that's what they do. Whereas with junior talent, it's not that you doubt them, but they just haven't proven themselves, so it
Yeah.
becomes a lot riskier. And that's what we're trying to do with our program, is we're trying to eliminate that risk. We're trying to make it so it's not risky. It's an investment towards these individuals, the next generation of software developers, for God's sake.
Exactly.
So,
Right.
like these individuals are going to turn intermediate in a few years, and in a few years more, they're going to be seniors. And guess what? All the agencies are going to want them. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
so the apprenticeship model is what we've come up with to remove that risk, where we're kind of testing it out in terms of in-house with our sister company Zero, where we take on individuals from the community that have either attended more than one hackathon, and we're kind of seeing a progression in terms of their skill. And hackathons are a beautiful way of seeing how a person is performing.
Mm.
If you kind of see consistently, like, oh, they're winning, or they're creating, like, a project after project, and you can see the progression in terms of like the build. You can see the quality of code improve, and it doesn't necessarily, again, have to be in the hackathon. We have a community that supports even personal projects. So when you start seeing like these active members, we're actually able to take talent right from our community and give them opportunities with our clients, where the apprenticeship model looks like, we bring them on depending on the length of the project. Sometimes it's 8 weeks, sometimes it's 12, sometimes it can be a longer engagement, and we give them mentorship. So we give them a senior developer who gets to work with them, does multiple checkpoints throughout the day, and makes sure that they have that support. They have that, they have that ecosystem where they can lean on someone who's been in the industry for a while and learn from them in production code, get to work on a live application, and get to put that on their resume, right? So that when they meet individuals like yourself, you're like, oh, okay, you've worked for X company for a number of, whether it's weeks or months. Now this person is less risky than if they don't have any experience. So that's the apprenticeship model. And again, companies can help by sponsoring us, and or if they're interested in hiring our apprentices, that's another way that they can help.
That's awesome. I mean, you're helping these developers, I mean, build that track record of success, and at least have some wins under their belt, right? Which again contributes to reducing that perceived risk organizations might have in hiring new talent. So that's awesome. That's fantastic. So and also, folks, by the way, I do see some questions here. I'm not ignoring the questions. I will get around to those shortly, but feel free to ask Navi any questions you have. Now, Navi, can you let the viewers know more about any upcoming hackathons or events that are being organized by Mintbean and yourself?
Oh yeah, tons. Like you said, I think we're at 80. So we do, you know what, we used to, so we kind of changed our hackathon model to a week. When we started out back in March, we were doing like 3 hackathons per week. And
Wow.
Yeah, some of them were like 4 hours, and they were intense. Like they
Yeah.
were intense. And we used to have code mentor support like throughout the whole thing, but it was like very intense. Like people weren't
Right.
having lunch. And then
Wow.
so then we were like, okay, we need to dial it back and give people a little bit more breathing space. So the next hack that's actually coming up is on Friday, and we're creating a quiz app a lot. So it's going to be a clone of pretty much Jeopardy.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, we're launching that on Friday, and then we have a
Navi, sorry to interrupt you, Navi. So when you say Friday, do you mean like tomorrow or do you mean next week Friday?
Friday tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, so we kick off a new hack week every Friday.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, so this week is quiz application, a lot like Jeopardy, and we have a number of workshops. We have a partnership with New Camp, a boot camp down in the States, and there's going to be a talk from their CEO and how he pretty much created the boot camp out of a project that he did as a hack. So he's going to be talking about that. Then on Monday, we have somebody who's also a sponsor who's going to be talking about the automation and deployment and GitHub actions. So that's going to be an interesting workshop. And then we have, a recruiter coming in on Wednesday, sharing some of his insights in terms of dealing with anxiety, dealing with stress. So, we kind of provide a number of different workshops throughout Hack Week, just relevant topics that are important to software developers, a number of different touch points so that, you feel connected to a community and you're not in this alone. We're in this together, and we're going to get you, that opportunity faster. It's not, the goal is that we don't want it to take a year for that opportunity to come knock on your door. That we want you to knock on the opportunity's door, whether that's like 10 weeks out, whether it's a month or 3 months out. The iteration needs to be a little bit faster for these people to not drop out of software, right? Like if you don't have a job in a year, like what are the chances that you're going to remain in that industry?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, totally. All right, so hackathons every Friday. So and also Navi, the event. So I'm going to be speaking at one of your events. Is that like, when is that? Like 3 weeks from now, I think.
Yes, that's 2-3 weeks from now. Now you're going to make me look at my schedule when that is.
Yeah, I think it was close to the end of this month. But yeah, folks, I will be speaking at one of Mintbean's events as well. So make sure you sign up and reach out to Navi for more information. But Navi, at your end, so how can people connect with you? And I'm going to share your links on the screen here. But what's the best way for people who want to reach out to you, or people who want to learn more about the hackathons, how they can participate, and more information? What's the best way for people to connect with you?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best way to connect with me. You guys can come on to our Discord community. We have a really active community. You can get the link from our Twitter, I believe. I also believe it exists on our LinkedIn page, but I'm not certain about that. I know that it certainly exists on our Twitter page, but if you message me on LinkedIn, I'll definitely provide that for you. And you're coming in on the 23rd.
23rd. All right. Awesome. Fantastic. So I'm really looking forward to that as well. It's going to be a fantastic event, and it was great that you invited me. So definitely looking forward to that. And folks, for those of you watching, you have an interest in participating in Mintbean's hackathons, feel free to reach out to Navi. She's very friendly, very open to making new contacts and connections. So make sure you reach out. So I put the link to Navi's LinkedIn right there. So make sure you check it out. And also for more information about Mintbean, you can visit their website, right? So it's mintbean.io. So for more information about Mintbean, make sure you check them out. Great organization. They're doing such great things for developers in that area of the market. Those of the development space that might be unseen, unheard. So it's great what you're doing with them, Navi. So really appreciate what you and your husband are doing for the community. So if anyone has any Q&As, I'm going to open it up to Q&As. I did see some private messages as well. But let me see if we have any public questions here that will be relevant for Navi. I know someone had some job search. So folks, today's is not going to be about job search stuff. So any questions you have about hackathons as a developer starting out your career in the dev space, feel free to put in the comments. We'll be answering those questions for now. I did have some private questions, Navi. Just bear with me. I'm just going to go to my private messages. I
No
did
worries.
see some people were asking me some questions. Um,
I don't mind job search questions either. I think
yeah, you
that
don't know? Okay.
Yeah, I think that job search and what we're trying to do is it's very correlated to job search.
Okay.
It's hackathon is a strategy. It's a strategy towards your job search. Um,
Okay. Gotcha.
you need to kind of utilize it as a strategy. That's kind of like what I've been trying to get to in this talk is that you need to talk about especially if you kind of end up submitting your project. Like I said, 50% of individuals that start Hack Week don't end up finishing, right? So you're already 50% better off than the people that ended up starting, right? So
Right.
you've already eliminated a bunch of people and shown that, hey, you have the skill, but that doesn't mean that the 50% that didn't finish can't attempt again. Because software is one of those fields that you just get better the more you do, the
Yeah.
more you build, right? Like that's why building is something we really advocate for because watching videos is great, but then if I watch 10 videos in a row and I don't do anything about it, am I going to remember those first couple of videos that I watched? Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Okay, it makes sense. So I do have a so I have a private question here, Navi. So I'm not gonna say this person's name, but shout out to who the person who sent me this question. So they said, "Hey Dean, just a private question. I'm just starting out in development, not really good right now. Can I still participate in hackathons? Can you share some thoughts on that, Navi? I know you kind of touched on this, but what would you let this person know?
Absolutely. I think the goal is not to win. The goal is to improve, right?
Right.
So the goal of winning is you're journeying into tech, and I think this can apply to any field. But because we're talking about tech, I'll keep it about technology and specifically software development. Is you're not competing with other people, you're competing with yourself. So where you are today in terms of skill level doesn't mean that you can't surpass that a month down, a week down. The more like I'm going to keep saying this over and over again, the more you do, the better you get at it. So definitely participate, take an attempt at it, and and then talk about it. Talk about why you weren't able to complete it. Make journalize it, create a blog, and then and watch your own progress. That hey, like I ran into this roadblock and I couldn't solve it. And guess what? I participated again next week and I was actually able to hit submission. And maybe in
Yeah.
second week, you won't be able to hit submission. Maybe it won't even happen on the third week. But guess what? Consistency is equal to talent. That statement could not be more true. Like, be consistent with what you're doing. Like that is the winning formula, you know?
I love that because I totally agree with that. It's
Yeah.
I mean consistency is so important. Like I think regardless of your profession, right? Obviously, we're talking about developers here, but folks, it's 100% true. Like, and I totally agree with that. It's all about consistency as well. And I like what you said, Navi, about you should be competing with yourself. Like that's who you should be competing with. Like instead of looking at so and so's doing so great at this, or this person's doing that, this person won. You need to be considering how much you've improved from the last time you completed whatever task you're trying to complete and whatnot. So definitely agree. Great question there. We got a question, another private question. So this person is saying, is there a time limit? What happens if you can't finish everything in the time limit?
So you won't get to compete in terms of winning and being featured as a winner. But currently we don't have. I think we're in the middle of building the platform, and we have lots of different things we want to roll out in terms of how we want you to interact with the platform, how we want to roll out the requirement sets and get you leaderboards and all that jazz. But in terms of like, hey, I'm not able to finish in a week, my advice is don't give up.
Right.
Don't give up. Keep pushing yourself that I'm going to complete this. And like I said, the race is with you. The race is not with other people. right? So this is not really about, if you care about learning, then you're gonna finish that project and you're gonna show it to yourself, and then you're gonna talk about it, that hey, I wasn't able to submit it on time, but guess what, I completed, I didn't give up, and here's what I have to show for it. Tag us, we give you love on LinkedIn. And guess what, who lives on LinkedIn? Recruiters.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. That's right. Awesome. So those were all the private questions I had. Any other questions? It doesn't look like there are any more related to the hackathons. Melissa, I see your question in the comments. I think you sent me a private message as well. It's related to UX jobs. Unless Navi, if you have some knowledge about UX jobs, I mean, maybe you can share your thoughts on that. But Melissa's asking, any chance you can touch upon UX jobs out there and where to best tap into the hidden job market? I don't know if that's relevant to you, Navi. If not, no worries. We can skip over that.
I think UX jobs is actually a little bit harder, to be very honest with you, Melissa, because what tends to happen is, if a company has, I'm just going to make up a number here, like 10
Yeah.
developers, like the ratio to the number of UX individuals on the team will be 1 to 10, right?
Right.
So the number of opportunities is lower. So you have to, what my recommendation to you is, start partnering up with some of your developer friends who are working on, whether they're working on freelance projects or whether they have a client project. Get them to collaborate with you, where you start creating a portfolio for yourself of projects that you've worked on. So you become, so that when you're touching on those job opportunities for UX, you can start showing those hiring managers, here's my professional portfolio, the clients that I've worked for. So that's my 2 cents.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Navi. Yeah, I would definitely. My advice would probably resonate with that. And yeah, Melissa, thanks for that. Hope that answered your question, Melissa. I know you sent me a private message. I'll check out. I'll respond to your private message later. But yeah, Melissa, I do remember you. We met a couple of years back. Great to see you here, and thanks so much for tuning in. So we got one final question, I guess, from Ibad Navi. So Ibad says, this is my first time here. How can I register for the hackathon, which is tomorrow? Can I participate alone, or do I need a team? So Ibad, shout out to Ibad. But yeah, Navi, if you can please respond to that.
Yes, absolutely. You can register on mintbean.io. You can register on Eventbrite. Let me drop the Eventbrite link here so you guys can kind of see all our events.
Yeah.
And sorry, what was the other question? You can definitely participate alone. And if you're looking for a team, we actually have a channel on our Discord, Find a Team. So
Nice.
you can come alone, or if you don't have a team, we can definitely, the channel helps to find a team. So it's a great way to also network, right? Meet people that are like different parts of the world, and you kind of get to see like how other people are thinking who are at the same I guess experience level as you, and you kind of get to like learn from them and they get to learn from you. So it's a great way to meet.
Awesome, fantastic. Yeah, so I think you're gonna drop the link there, Navi. So Ibad, yeah. So make sure you. So I think Navi's gonna share the link shortly. So she'll share that in the comments, and make sure all of you check it out. Right, check that out. Participate. Whether you've been to a hackathon in the past, or you're this will be your first kind of involvement in a hackathon, folks. Sometimes you got to get out your comfort zone as well, right? Like because if you think back to your achievements, your career, if you're starting out your career, even back in school, right? When were you most challenged? Like when were you most able to learn new things? It was usually when at those points where you were able to get past your comfort zone, right? So I mean, this sounds like a very friendly group and a friendly, welcoming group. So see how you can participate. So I got the link here. Let me just quickly share that as well.
I wasn't able to drop it in comments. I believe I shared it with you. If you don't mind dropping it.
Yeah, no worries. I'm gonna put that on right now. So there we go, and let me share that on. It should show up shortly. Yeah, so I shared the link in the comments, folks. So make sure you check it out. And any questions you have, feel free to reach out to Navi. Again, check out Navi on LinkedIn. You can connect with her on LinkedIn. I'll share that link again over here. And also, for more information about Mintbean, if you're an organization or you're a developer, you want to learn more about how you can get involved and how you can participate, make sure you check out Mintbean's website, and that's mintbean.io. Navi, thank you so much for your time. I had such a pleasure speaking with you. Had a lot of fun talking about hackathons and Mintbean and all the amazing things you and your husband are doing, as well as your team. And definitely look forward to the event on the 23rd. And again, yeah, look forward to connecting with you then. Thanks so much, Navi.
Absolutely. Thank you for this opportunity. It was so much fun talking to you this morning. Thank you, everyone who's listening. Really appreciate it. Hope to see you all in the Mintbean ecosystem, whether that's a hackathon, whether it's on the Discord channel, or just a workshop. So come join us and check out the fun.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thanks, Navi, and everyone. Thanks, everyone. And everyone have a fantastic day.
Take care.
Bye.